All right, I'm back. Took a week off, had a lot of stuff to sort out, and therefore I got a lot of boxing news to catch up on. I uploaded a comprehensive boxing roundup to my Patreon page at about 8:30 this morning, and I've made it available for anybody to listen to. So click the link in the description and head on over to my Patreon page to listen to my comprehensive boxing roundup, most of which will not appear here on my YouTube channel. It's uncensored. You know, there's a bit of light effing and blinding here and there. And I just talk about more stuff than I'm going to be talking about in the videos I upload on YouTube today. But anyway, let's start off with this story here. Eddie Hearn talking about Tyson Fury's pound for pound status. He says that it's a bit strange the way that Fury can continuously climb up the pound for pound rankings by beating the same person. And I agree with that. Look, Tyson Fury has put on better performances at elite level than Anthony Joshua. No doubt. Anthony Joshua just lost to Usyk anyway, so you could easily say that he's no longer even in the top 2. Some would say top 3 heavyweights in the world at this point. But AJ has had a lot of world title fights, a lot of world title defenses. His resume is deeper than Tyson Fury's resume, but at elite level, he hasn't had wins that have been as impressive, that have been as convincing as Tyson Fury, because he blew Deontay Wilder out of the water in their second fight. And of course, he completely outboxed Vladimir Klitschko when he fought Klitschko in Germany. And of course, Tyson Fury has had his best wins overseas in the other guy's backyard. So these are more impressive if you just take them as actual victories in their own right. They're more impressive than anything AJ's done. AJ just got a deeper resume where he's beat more top 10 guys and what have you. So you have to weigh these things up when you're comparing people resume for resume. But when you're talking about pound for pound rankings, some people wanted to put Tyson Fury pound for pound. I can't see how you would put him. Certainly you wouldn't put Tyson Fury number 1. If you got any objectivity at all and you know anything about boxing, you're not putting Tyson Fury number 1 pound for pound. You're having a giggle if you're trying to do that. In fact, Usyk has got a much better claim to be number 1 pound for pound than Tyson Fury at this stage, because he was undisputed champion at cruiserweight. Look how many fights he did it in as well. Beat all the top cruiserweights, stepped up to heavyweight, and won the unified world heavyweight title in his first attempt against a unified champion with loads of world title defenses, who's much bigger. So Usyk has got a much better claim, as far as I'm concerned, for pound than Tyson Fury does. But if you want to put Tyson Fury in the pound for pound top 10, I mean, maybe I'm not really big on pound for pound lists, to be fair. I've long said this. But if you want to put him on a pound for pound list at some rank, whatever it is, then I guess, but certainly not top 4, top 5 when you got the likes of Alexander Usyk out there, you got Canelo Alvarez out there, you got obviously Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, and so on. And I do think that Eddie Hearn has a point where Fury's maybe getting a little bit too much credit for what he's done. Look, what he's done is great. But people are getting carried away because there are people out here saying that Tyson Fury is the greatest of all time. Based upon what? Beating Wilder 3 times and Klitschko. I mean, when did the bar get that low? You know what I mean? When you're talking about greatest heavyweight of all time, Lennox Lewis, off the top of my head, had 17 world title fights. 17. He fought the likes of Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, David Tua, Vitaly Klitschko, Razor Ruddock, Frank Bruno. So to put Tyson Fury even in the same category as Lennox Lewis is premature in terms of his all-time status. That's premature. He hasn't got the depth of wins, the depth of resume that Lennox Lewis has. He hasn't beaten the number of all-time greats Lennox Lewis has beaten. Longevity matters when you're talking about somebody's resume, particularly when you're comparing it to all-time greats. Longevity matters. So yeah, Tyson Fury's not in the conversation yet with the Lennox Lewises, the Muhammad Alis, the Larry Holmeses, you know, even the Mike Tysons. Mike Tyson, at the end of the day, was undisputed champion. He cleaned out his division. He fought everybody he was supposed to fight during that first reign that he had as a heavyweight champion. So, I mean, yeah, a couple guys that he never ended up fighting for various reasons, but most of the guys that he was supposed to fight, the vast majority of them, he fought them. So again, Tyson Fury's done fantastically well for himself. Amazing the way he came back from being morbidly obese and all the mental health issues he had and whatever, to come back and fight Wilder with very few warm-up fights fantastically well. But let's just pump the brakes in terms of saying he's the greatest of all time. And let's pump the brakes in terms of trying to say that he's pound for pound #1 or top 5 or whatever right now as well. Let's just slow down. I know people are on an emotional high after that great fight he had with Wilder in the trilogy match. But when the dust settles and you look at things in the cold light of day, unless you're a fanboy or unless you're a super casual, you're not going to be saying that Tyson Fury is the greatest heavyweight of all time based upon what he's done so far. There are lots of guys out there, you know, throughout boxing history, lots of heavyweights who had great wins. If you just look at it on its own, oh wow, that was a great win. But retrospectively, when you look back at their whole career, they didn't actually do that much. I mean, Corey Sanders knocked out Vladimir Klitschko. That's a great win, right? What else did he do? He got beat by Hasim Ratman, got beat by Nate Tubbs, obviously lost to Vitaly Klitschko after Vladimir. I mean, even Hasim Ratman, right? He had the knockout win over Lennox Lewis, but then he himself got stopped by David Tua in the first fight, got stopped by Oleg Maskayev twice. So there's a lot of fighters out there, man, that's done things. I mean, Leon Spinks beat Muhammad Ali. Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson. Now, obviously, Tyson Fury's undefeated. He hasn't had any blips on his record or L's on it, unless you go back and look at the John McDermott fights, right? Oh, the first John McDermott fight, excuse me, not the second fight. That was conclusive. Tyson Fury stopped him. So, anyway, it is what it is. Tyson Fury's a fantastic fighter, and he's shown attributes that Anthony Joshua hasn't shown. And I'm talking about intangibles. He's shown the ability to recover from knockdowns much more quickly than AJ. He's shown greater confidence. And he's shown the ability to win by any means necessary. So no matter how deep it's got in the ring for him, it hasn't been too deep. He's been able to find his way out. Whereas with Anthony Joshua, he's drowned a couple times. So it is what it is.